Hey, you, and welcome to the Shine and Thrive podcast, episode number 1. This is the premiere episode. I can't believe this day is finally here. And in this episode, I thought it'd be super fitting if I took you on my 9-year journey of how I went from a server to a full-time wedding photographer, and how I went from just making $5,000 in the beginning when I first started photography in my business. Anything to do with photography, I had just made $5,000 my first year, all the way up until now, me making over $200,000 a year. So I take you on a very vulnerable journey. I walk you through my failures, my wins, and I really believe that this episode has a ton of value for anyone, whether you're just starting out, whether you've already been in the business for like 2 years or more, or even 8+ years. There's always something to learn from other people's experiences. And I'm so excited to take you deep into my journey and hopefully give you a ton of value in the process too. So stay tuned. When I first started my wedding photography business back in 2011, I made just $5,000 in my business. Now, I bring in multiple 6 figures per year while working only 30-hour weeks serving my dream couples. I'm here to help you discover that it's so possible to have what you want when you want in your business so that you can create the life you've always dreamed of and deserve. Hello and welcome to my first ever podcast episode. Well, technically, if you follow me on Instagram, you would know that it's technically my second podcast episode, and that's because when I actually took the time to record it the first time around, the morning after, I had realized I hadn't saved to my computer. So I was actually super impressed with how I handled it. I didn't freak out or get super angry or frustrated as I would for like all the previous years of my life with technology. But lately I've been learning to really just be present and be like, okay, ask myself a good question. What can I learn from this? This is happening for a reason. What could I have done better? So here I am again, and it's a week later. I was totally procrastinating doing this again, but it's a week later and I'm recording it and I'm so excited. And I see why it happened. I basically learned better how to save a file so that to make sure this doesn't happen in the future. I also added some extra notes in what I wanted to share with you, and I think it ended up making this episode way better. So guys, everything happens for a reason, and I feel super excited and empowered, and I'm going to dive right in. So this episode, I'm going to walk you through my journey for the past 9 years of me going from photography student to server to full-time wedding photographer. And this episode, it's a lot. There's a lot of stories packed into this episode of all the 9 years that took me to get to where I am now. And no matter where you are in your journey, I think stories are a really good way for us humans to learn from other people's mistakes and also get inspired by other people's, I guess, grit and drive throughout their lives. So I know I personally love hearing stories of people that I inspire me and that I look up to, because if they were able to get over some of the things they got over, and everyone has failures. If they were able to do it, I'm able to do it. So I'm hoping to do the same thing for you too today in this episode. And so in this episode, I share with you my wins, my failures over the last 9 years, and even how much money I earned each year as my business grew. I'm a huge believer in talking more about money. I don't know why there's a stigma around it with people kind of, feeling like they have to hide how much they make, or they can't openly ask, oh, so how much are you making in your work or salary? I feel like we can learn so much from each other about talking about money. And especially, I heard like this crazy statistic yesterday that apparently, and this is just in America, so I don't know if it's all of North America or just the States, but apparently on average, people have only $500 saved on the side in case of an emergency. And that means like, at any point, if a car breaks down or their heating in their house fails, like that's so stressful and anxious for people. And I mean, we aren't talking about money with each other, so maybe we're not figuring out different ways of earning it and different, possibilities that we can actually bring in more income in our lives. So I definitely want to inspire you guys to be able to see that there's so much more possibility than you think with regards to money. But that will be another topic for another podcast episode. So yeah, for this one, I'm just going to jump right in. And okay, so let's get started. So 2011 was the year that I was supposed to graduate from my photography program in Humber. And right before I graduating, I was super sold that I was going to go into fashion. So I was actually going to be a fashion photographer because I felt like I would have so much more freedom to do what I wanted creatively in that space. And I just assumed that I would be able to be more like free and weird with like my ideas. But then 2 months before our graduation, in walks in Story Wilkins, who is a wedding photographer. I think she's still currently a wedding photographer, but back then she totally blew me away in class. Literally, she walks in, she started talking about what she does. I'm like, oh, cool, wedding photographer. She played a slideshow to music. I think it was about 1 to 3 minute slideshow of images that were heartfelt, full of emotion, humans connecting with each other on a wedding day. And I had never seen wedding photos like this. I only saw wedding photos in magazines of like the more like kind of pose stuff of like the couple looking into the camera, that kind of thing. And my heartstrings were super tugged on that day, and I got really emotional. And in that moment, literally, when you have that moment in your life where it's just a snap of a finger, what decision you need to make. I knew that was the direction I had to take my photography. And so in that moment, I basically scrapped I think it was 4 months of hard work of creating my fashion portfolio. And I decided that the 2 months that I had left before graduating, I had to scrap all that and I had to create a brand new portfolio. So that's what I did. And what I did, I kind of basically found last minute a wedding photographer through literally Henry's. Where I went to, when I went to Henry's, I had purchased my first DSLR camera. And there was this guy, oh my gosh, what's his name? I don't remember, but I just always remember seeing him because I would go in, buy a new lens over the years and stuff like that. Oh, Gary from Henry's in Brampton. Oh my gosh. So he was the one that brought me along on my first ever wedding to second shoot, second shoot and help him out. And that's how I got my first pieces of portfolio work for my graduating portfolio. So yeah, that's where it all started. And right after graduating, so we at school at Humber, they didn't teach us how to run our business, how to market. So I literally thought that me just having a website and I graduated meant that I would just start getting so many inquiries and people would start booking. No, that's not how it worked at all. So basically what I had to do on the side was I had to be a server. So I was a server, and that was all throughout college anyway. So for the past, I think 4 years before I graduated, since I was 18, I was a server. So when I graduated the program, I was 21. So I was a server on the side to make money, all that kind of stuff. But guess what? I got fired. I got fired from Jack Astor's because I don't know, I'm a rebel at heart, and just the way certain things were running, I didn't think made sense. So for me, I was like, oh no, I don't want to do this specific thing. For example, okay, they had us every time you went to put out dirty dishes, you had to come out with a set of clean dishes in your hand to bring them out, put them down, and then you could go to your tables. And I was in the weeds, super, super busy. At one point, I maybe had 6-7 tables, and my tables needed me, and it was so busy, and I literally didn't have a second. I didn't want someone waiting around for a drink just for me to carry some clean plates to the front, especially that there were a lot of clean plates at the front. So I was just thinking efficiently, right? I'm thinking there's no point in doing that thing, that action, if right now a different action makes more sense. And so I kept getting feedback on that and saying I'm not a team player when I was doing a lot of other team player things. Anyway, basically got fired from there. And of course, it's pretty shitty feeling, but Again, I don't think I was ever meant to work for anyone else. And for me, I don't know, that was a positive thing. I'm always like, oh, what positive thing can come out of this? So I decided to find another restaurant to work in where I could actually make even more money in tips because the average check could be higher. So I went ahead and I found some random bar by the airport. And so by the way, this has like, I'm not talking about photography business yet because this is me like just getting through the grind of like figuring out how to make money while also starting my business, right? And I know a lot of you are probably in the same boat because we need money to survive, right? But we also want to start a photography business. So this is me sharing my story of how. So okay, back to the story. There was a random bar by the airport. So I live just outside of Toronto. So, by Pearson Airport. And yeah, it was like, I was just like, okay, they hired me on the spot. So I'm like, okay, awesome. So I tried out working there, but it was a place where I felt pretty harassed by men, and I felt so uncomfortable, and I don't like wearing revealing clothes, and they asked me to do that more and more, and I was just like, it's not me. I don't feel right here. And then there was this like one time where I don't know, I was serving a table, and these guys just made a comment, and I just felt so grossed out and disgusted. I told my manager, I'm like, oh, I'm going to go out for a smoke, because I actually used to smoke for like 8 months of my life, but that's it. I'm going to go out for a smoke. So I knew that the keg was just around the corner, and I literally ran, and the keg was probably 800 meters away, 900 meters away kind of thing. I like bolted. It was also, I think it was winter, maybe. I remember it being really cold. And I ran into the keg, and the keg is busy. It's like a night, like a Friday night or something. It's super busy. I asked the hostess, I'm like, can I ask to talk to a manager? And she's like, oh, like, sure. Is there anything wrong? I'm like, no, I just really, really need to talk to a manager. She like looks at me. I'm like wearing a serving outfit, but I don't work there. Like, where's this girl coming from? And I mean, usually I have no shame. I kind of just do what I want. And I know that's a big big thing that has helped me in my life to just like get what I want. But yeah, so a manager comes around the corner, and I told him I love being like straight up with people, and just, like, yeah, being straight up can help you so much in getting what you want. So I was like, hey, it's so nice to meet you. I'm so sorry. I know it's a really busy evening for you. I'm just letting you know I'm working across the street at this bar, and I've just got like harassed, like verbally harassed, and I feel so uncomfortable, and I'm really in a place in my life where I need to make money, and I'm ready to work. I'm ready to work hard, but I just feel so like uncomfortable there. And I know that you guys are an amazing restaurant to work for. Is there any way I can have an interview with you guys? That's what I said. And he like looks at me, he's like, wow, oh, okay. And obviously like I was standing out to him because most likely no one has ever pitched themselves that way to them. And he was like, you know what? Okay, why don't you, are you available this day? I don't even remember exactly how it happened, if he called me back or anything like that, but I went in for an interview, and I laid it all out there. I laid it all out how I'm at a point in my life where I really, really need this job, and I'm a really hard worker, and all this stuff. I told myself, got the job. So that was amazing, because working by the airport at the keg, man, you make so much money, because like it's just businessmen coming in and out, right? And they just put everything on their work card, and tips are like 20% all the time. Average checks are so much higher. So that was a huge like catalyst to me being able to start my business, because I was able to fund so many of my business expenses that I needed to take my business off the ground. So I'm very, very grateful for Dixon Road Keg for hiring me then, because I was able to really be able to invest in myself and my business. So that was the year 2011. And I told you that I would share with you how much money I made each year. So you could see the growth, and then you can also see that, hey, if I could do it, you could do it too. So year 1, 2011, I made $5,200 in my first year of business. So on the side, here and there, I had like people noticing I'm taking photos and, doing shoots. I was second shooting a little bit. So that was mainly it. Okay. So moving on to 2012. So this was a big year with a lot of hustle and experimenting. So I worked at the keg, as you know, and I made the most money per hour I have ever made in my life. And that helped me so much because I was able to work basically less hours, make more. And then in my off time, I could do anything else I could do to help build my business. So that was the year I booked my first wedding ever. And I booked it for 6 hours for $900. And I was so over the moon excited. So that was super fun. The problem that I didn't know that I had back then was that I didn't know what I wanted to do specifically in photography, and I thought I was specific enough because I wanted to document people and moments for people. So what I was doing back then was I was being a generalist, which meant I tried marketing to families, couples, weddings, and it was just a little bit confusing. And at that time, I had no idea that I was doing that. So I tried a whole bunch of marketing ploys, and at this time also, I didn't have like a Facebook community of other photographers that I really knew. I was kind of on this path on my own. That was a time where I didn't know that a community like that existed. So I literally just like had ideas out of my ass and I tried to implement them. Like, for example, I printed out flyers with different types of photos on them. So I had like wedding photos on there, family photos, and like maternity photo, a whole bunch of photos on the flyer. And I thought that if I went to rich neighborhoods in Toronto and just, left them at people's doorsteps, that they would find it, see it, love it, and hire me. And I think I printed out and put out like maybe 1,000 of them or something. And no one, not even one person called or anything. So guys, don't do that. That doesn't work. So you can learn from my mistakes. Another thing I did was I thought that if I went to High Park on Mother's Day and I just stopped people there and I was like, hey, like, do you guys want some photos? Like, it's for free. I just wanted to, share the love and have you guys have memories for Mother's Day. I thought that after that, they would remember me and then they would hire me in the future or tell them about my friends, about me. And I mean, I did that. I took people's photos. I sent them to them. But I never heard back from them. And I think it's because when people get something for free, they don't really value it as much. And I think that I didn't know that then. So I tried that. That didn't work. I also even tried doing a Groupon deal. So I got on Groupon and I think it was like an hour-long session plus like 10 prints for $50. Oh my God. Like there was no way I made any money off of that. So again, don't do Groupon either because those customers also, they wouldn't be repeat clients most likely. And especially if it was something that's that cheap, they won't value it as much. That's another mistake that didn't work for me. So this was the year where I was like just experimenting all over the place, trying new marketing techniques. But the one thing that was going really, really well for me is that I second shot like 47 weddings, which was huge. So the way I found those was, Gary, the guy from Henry's, who first, introduced me to weddings. He kind of had some more for me. And then I went to a wedding as a guest with my ex and the photographers there, I told them that I'm on this journey. I want to become a wedding photographer. They were amazing and were like, oh, well, yeah, we need some help. And they took me on as like a second shooter for that year too. So that was huge. That really, really helped me out. And they said that I could use my photos for like the photos that I took for my portfolio, which helped me out so much when I was building my business. And they were, so 1459 Studios, shout out to Tyler. So he helped me out so much. There's also Alessandro Garofalo, who also helped me a lot. He let me second shoot, and I was able to use the images I took on those days for my portfolio. Again, so grateful for all those people that really helped me. And I learned so much through second shooting. I learned how I liked to shoot, how I didn't like to shoot, what got me most excited about wedding days, what didn't, what I liked that the photographers were doing and what I didn't like they were doing. There was just so many lessons packed in that year. So that was really, really amazing. At that point too, when I was taking pictures on the side for like families and couples, because people were seeing that I was taking photos, they were about for like $100 to $150. So again, I didn't have the confidence to price myself accordingly because after, all the expenses that I had that year to pay, I really wasn't making much money. So if you're charging $100 to $150 per session, man, that's probably just covering your expenses most likely, but it depends on where you are in your journey. And guess what? I did that at one point in my journey. I learned along the way. I raised my prices along the way as I got better and better in the experience that I offer. So yeah, I mean, it worked for me, and everyone starts somewhere, right? So that's amazing, even if you're just there. And okay, so about the keg now. So on the side of all this second shooting and stuff, I was still working at the keg on Dixon Road. And there came this opportunity where I was able to go to Italy with my friends for about 3 weeks. And I really, really wanted to have this experience with my friends. And again, I believe that, we should all be free to live our lives how we want to, because I mean, we're here to thrive and be alive and all those things. So I was like, hell yeah, I want to go. So I requested with the keg to go to Italy, and basically they said, Sarah, there's actually a 2.5 week limit on how much vacation you can take. You can't take more. And I'm like, really? Like, my friends are going for 3 weeks. I want to fly there with them, fly back. It's only 3 days more. Can I not just get 3 days more? Or can you guys put me on the schedule? And then technically 3 servers will just commit to picking up those shifts for me. Like, is there a workaround? And they're like, I don't know, Sarah. Like, the only workaround is for you to apply to quit, and then basically you could take those 3 weeks off, and then when you come back, you can reapply, and your job will be here waiting for you. And I'm like, okay, cool. Well, if there's a workaround, I would love to take that, because it would mean so much for me to go to Italy with my friends. So guess what? I went to Italy. I maxed out my credit cards because I'm like, I'm free. I want to be free. I want to experience everything. And I have a job waiting for me when I come back. And basically, I come back from Italy. The day I come back, I call the keg, and I'm like, so hey, I'm back. And I'm not going to name names. Everyone at the keg where I work there was incredible. It was just the GM, the general manager that worked there at the time. He was the one that handled this whole situation, and he was the one that told me the thing that I just mentioned of the workaround. So he answers the phone, and he's like, oh, hi, how's your trip? I'm like, great. And I'm like, okay, so how can we figure this out now? He's like, oh, well, we don't need you anymore. And I was like, what? What do you mean? Like, I thought you said that I could have my job back. It'd be waiting for me. That was just a technicality. He's like, yeah, but no, we don't need you anymore. And I was shaking. I'm even shaking right now just thinking about it. Like, what kind of human does that to someone? He clearly didn't like me or something, didn't want me to work there, and that was his way of getting rid of me. Otherwise, I was a freaking super hard worker. I worked 6 shifts a week. I switched to close with so many servers. I had no complaints about getting orders wrong. I was always so on point. Man, that really hit me hard. And I got off the phone. I was shaking, and I just started crying. And I'm like, what the hell am I going to do? My credit cards are maxed out. I have no job now. And it was just a shitty feeling of feeling rejected like that. I'm just someone that they don't care about, when I really cared about providing an amazing experience for all the guests that came to the restaurant. Oh, so again, me being Sarah, after my tears and all of that, I was like, okay, what can I learn from this? Clearly this is happening for a reason. Why is this happening? So this moment actually was the catalyst that helped me start building my business even more. Because when I was making such good money at the keg, I was so focused on making all that money there, and I was working so many hours that I was like, well, yeah, building my business can take a little bit of a backseat. I'm still second shooting for all these photographers, that's going well, but I wasn't actually building my end of the business. And because this happened, I was kind of like, okay, maybe it's time to just focus on my dream and actually make it happen instead of procrastinating it. So in that time, I basically went on Craigslist, and I was like, let me find the money I need. Let me find jobs. So I found a bartending job and a job editing and culling for another photographer, which was actually super cool because I got to learn a little bit more of that side of things. And of course, I was still second shooting and all that. So the photographer that I ended up editing for then, so this is a shout out to Zimalu Photography. He on the side while we were like in his basement editing and stuff, he was watching Creative Live, and I was like, what is this? I've never heard of this. And he's like, oh, it's just like a place where people teach for free online and you can just watch for free. But if you want to do the course on your own pace and keep rewatching it, you can pay for it, but it's really cheap and affordable. I'm like, oh my gosh. And he was watching stuff about photography. And ever since I graduated school, which was now about a year or a year and a half, I had never known where to learn more about how to run a photography business or photography. And I was like, holy shit. So that night I remember like going home, Googling Creative Live. I was hooked. I was so freaking hooked. And I got to learn so much for free on there from seasoned photographers like Jasmine Star. Jasmine Star was a huge inspiration for me then because she was one of the photographers that I never knew that you could kind of put your personality into your business and then attract like-minded clients. And also just, I don't know, I learned different shooting techniques from her. Even though our shooting styles aren't the same, it still helped me see light differently and how she shoots weddings, because I didn't learn how to shoot weddings really at school. And the only experience I had was second shooting for certain photographers. So yeah, that was huge. So guys, this is still 2012. This was a big year, like I said. I'm almost done the 2012 section. This was the year that I decided I was going to do a wedding show in January 2013. And basically, thanks to Creative Live, I noticed a photographer doing a wedding show. I'm like, oh, I never thought of that. Let me try that. And so now to recap, for 2012, I made $13,000 this year in my business. So that was triple my revenue from the previous year. So I knew I was growing. I knew I was going in the right direction. And that was very, very motivating for me. Okay, so now, year 2013. So I was still bartending on the side, still editing for this photographer. But then I knew that I needed to make like even more money, and I didn't want to drive all the way to Toronto to be bartending. I wanted to be a little bit closer to home. Plus, both my parents, in full disclosure, because I know a lot of people have different situations in life and hurdles, and I want to be transparent so that anyone who hears this can see that I didn't have it easy either, getting to where I am. And if you're right now not having it easy and you're having you have a situation in your life where you feel like it's holding you back, I know how it feels to be stressed and anxious about money and all that. But there is a way out as long as you just keep focused and you believe in yourself. So both my parents got laid off in their jobs, and I lived with them still at the time. And I was freaking of course my parents did so much for me growing up, and all I wanted to do was save them. And all I knew how to do it was just like work my ass off, go work at the keg, serve some more. But remember, I got fired from the keg, right? And that's where I made the most money. So what I decided to do was apply to Brampton Keg, a different location. And I went in there to my interview, and in true Sarah style, I fucking laid it all out there. And I was like, okay, honestly, both my parents lost their jobs. They got laid off. I need this so badly. Like, you will not be disappointed. I work my butt off. I take extra shifts. I stay till close. I care so much about all the guests that come in because I really, really enjoy creating an amazing experience for people. It's one of my purposes in life. I just get so excited to do that. I sold myself like that. And I'm so grateful for the Brampton Keg because they actually ended up asking me, oh, so why did you leave the other keg, right? And I basically told them the exact story. I was very truthful with them, and they're like, oh, so they kind of technically let you go. And I'm like, yeah, but man, it wasn't I don't know why. I honestly was such a good worker, and I understand business, and I understand what it's like to be a team player and all that. And they took a chance on me, even though the other keg, clearly the story wasn't the best at an interview for me to tell them that technically I got let go from another location. But they took a chance on me, and I am forever grateful for Brampton Keg as well. Because that really, really helped things so much, because I was able to help my parents financially and still build my business on all of that. So now moving more into talking about growing my business. So that was the year that I booked 5 of my own weddings. So this was thanks to that wedding show that I did. And the first wedding show I ever did was the Total Wedding Show in Mississauga, or I think it was Malton. Yeah, it's basically right by the airport. Also, I took on a whole bunch of random shooting gigs, still second shooting. This is all kind of how I generated income and started learning more and stuff like that. Still watching Creative Live on the side. This also was a year that I discovered Facebook photographer groups. And oh my gosh, it was like, what? A community existed? Like a community like this exists? I had no idea. I was doing this alone the whole time. I even reached out to, I randomly saw on this like website provider that I was using at the time, I saw like a profile of someone that lived in Toronto, and I'm like, oh, I'm curious to see her website. I click through and I'm like, oh, she's so amazing. And this person was Tamara Lockwood, and I loved her energy on her website. Her photography was beautiful. And I wanted to just email her and be like, your energy is amazing. And I just wanted to say you're doing such a great job. Like that's all I basically emailed her about through her website contact form. She wrote me back saying, oh my gosh, like that's so sweet of you. Like you're a photographer too. Why don't we get coffee? And oh my gosh, like me and Tamara, we met, I guess that long ago. She's, we're still friends in the industry, and she's such an amazing person. But yeah, we met up for coffee and we really connected. And then thanks to her, later that year, she was unavailable for a wedding date and and she's like, hey, let me refer you to these clients. And I ended up booking them. So that was the first time I experienced, oh my gosh, I never thought about, referring each other as photographers in order to book more weddings. And this was the first time I really, really realized that there was more of a community in this industry than competition. And it was so beautiful to see. It was just such a positive thing, and I got so much more excited about not being in this alone, because I felt super alone in building my business before. So 2013, my income for the year, my revenue for the year in my business was $34,000. So that's like double my income, a little bit more than double. So again, numbers are growing. I'm excited. I'm happy. It happens to the best of us. We get fired up about starting our photography business, and then when we make it happen, we feel on top of the world. But then, bam, it hits us. We feel stuck with no clue of what our next best move should be. I know what that's like because I've been there many times before, but with the right guidance, I was actually able to gain clarity and achieve the next level of success I wanted in both my business and my life. So if you're ready for me to help you discover what it is that you really want next and how to make it happen one small step at a time, then head over to sarahmonica.com/coaching and book your coaching session with me. Remember, never stop learning and never get comfortable, because your dreams lie just outside of your comfort zone. That's sarahmonica.com/coaching. Now, moving on to 2014. Okay. Oh, I gotta take a breath. This was a very transformative year. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited about this. So basically, in 2014, I did another wedding show in January, and I was very generic, but I still booked maybe 5 to 6 weddings. And by generic, I meant I showed the type of work that I thought would be liked and popular, and what I've kind of been noticing in the industry that everyone is doing. So I'm like, oh, I should fit in. I should shoot like this too. And that's kind of what I showed. I ended up booking 5 to 6 weddings. Great. That was amazing. For that year in 2014, I ended up having 15 weddings, which was huge. That was triple than the year before. So I was just like so excited that all these couples were trusting me to document their day. And I just loved shooting weddings. So I was just over the moon excited. But I still felt in the back of my soul like I was pretending to be someone else. I don't know what it was. Like I felt that because I was young, I was 24 at that point, plus I look extra young. So maybe people thought I was 19 or 20 if they looked at me. I wanted people to take me seriously. So what I would do is I would dress up more in like a pantsuit or something. And when couples would want to meet with me to potentially book me for their wedding, I felt that I had to be super professional and I couldn't swear and be like, oh, hi, handshake, so nice to meet you. So I felt like I was just in a cage and like I wasn't really who I was. And I was just kind of getting tired of that. somehow one day I was looking up different photographers on the internet, and I found this one photographer, Meg Courtney. I think her name changed now because I think she got remarried, but it was Meg Courtney. And she, at the time, I went onto her website and it said photographer for spontaneous and enchanted brides. And I'm like, what? Like, what? Someone could actually have a brand that speaks to that niche of a market and still make really good money and get bookings. I was just like so amazed, and I dug deeper into her blog and stuff like that. And she had written about how she hired a business coach named Jeff Yoakum, and he had helped her specialize her business and attract her ideal client. I had never ever learned this or thought of this in my life, that I could literally be who I was and then attract my ideal client, and we would just connect easier and better just as humans while I was documenting their wedding. I had never thought about that. So of course, what I did, because I was tired of feeling like I was in a cage, and freedom is my number one value. I've always really, really valued freedom in my life. I needed that freedom back. I needed to feel free to be who I was. So I reached out to Jeff, and we did a initial kind of Skype call so he could see if I was a good fit for him or not, and vice versa, if he was a good fit for me in my journey of building my business. We ended up having an amazing conversation. He was like, I could definitely help you attract exactly who you want to work with, and also be who you want to be in your business and not feel like you have to be professional. And in the end, he's like, okay, well, if you want to work with me for 6 months of coaching, that's 6 1-hour phone calls plus some homework that you need to do on your own. It would be $10,000. $10,000. Yep. That was like, holy shit. What do I do? So I mulled it over. I didn't have the money. Like I literally didn't have the money. I just had credit cards, but I knew in my soul that that's what I needed. And for me, I know that I've always had this kind of mindset of my success is inevitable. Whatever I want, I can make happen in my life. And I'm very grateful that I don't know where I got that mindset from, but I'm very grateful that I had it. And I went for it. I made the investment. And as soon as I jumped into the coaching with him, man, it was hard because I was rediscovering who I was. And man, he really helped me find out who I am at my core all over again. And then he taught me how to fuse that into my business. And what was crazy is that not only did my business, like how I operated my business, change, but actually I had to take another look at the relationship I was in at that point. So I was in a relationship with my ex Mike, and oh my gosh, sorry, I'm just it's a kind of a sensitive topic because he passed away last year on Christmas, and it's interesting because he's my ex, so you go through all the emotions of being like over that person and you move on from them. But then when you hear that, 5 years after you broke up, like he passed away, it's like, whoa, it's a whole nother level of grief about a person, about a human being. It made me so sad that he can't experience life, the rest of his life. And anyway, I had to mention that because I just feel like I have to honor him. He was my high school sweetheart. We were on and off for like, I think 8 or 9 years. And at that time I was with him. But at that time, I was also feeling lost with who I was. And after Jeff helped me kind of find that out about myself again, I realized that he wasn't the best match for me. I realized that we had more of a really awesome friendship, but we weren't good for each other, like in a partnership, in a relationship, in a romantic sense. So that was a big change. I mean, in that year, I realized I realized that I have to like let out who I am in my core with the outside world and with how people perceive me in my business. And also I had to break off a relationship with someone that I really, really cared about. I really cared about him. And I really wish that we could have stayed friends, but it would have been too hard, I think, for us to stay friends. And anyway, that's a whole other story. I just had to mention it because it's a part of my story and I want you guys to know my journey, all the ups and downs. And vulnerability creates connection. And I want you guys to feel super connected with me, and like you can reach out to me and talk to me about anything, because the worst is feeling like you're in it alone. And I know what that was like in the first 2 years of me starting all of this. So I don't want you guys to feel alone. So Okay, so let me go back into, yeah. So it changed my personal life and my business, right? I had to let go of a relationship that was no longer serving me. And I had to let go of like the persona that I had that was no longer serving me. So my name of my business, actually, I don't know if you guys know this, but it used to be Sarunia Photography. And Sarunia basically stands for Sarah in Polish in a cute way. So it's like my mom would be like, oh, Sarunia, come here. So I just thought it was kind of creative and different. But guess what? Not a lot of people knew how to pronounce it. And I was always have questions about it and stuff like that. Um, and and so, oh yeah, Jeff, my coach, was like, maybe you shouldn't simplify your name. Like, why don't you just make it your name? But my actual last name is Stankiewicz, Sarah Stankiewicz, which is like 11 letters long. Not a lot of people know how to say it. But I'm like, oh, Jeff, my middle name is Monica. He's like, oh, so Sarah Monica, kind of like Santa Monica. He's like, that's easy to remember and that's cute. I like that. I'm like, yep, I love it. And in once, like, it was so easy for me to just rebrand and be like, okay, Sarah Monica it is. So that was a really big turning point. Made things a lot easier when I said my business name. People are like, oh, what's your business name? I'm like, oh, it's just me. I'm Sarah Monica. It's so easy. So actually, right after I had these like huge epiphanies with Jeff, that's when I met Rory. Rory is a freaking huge, huge, like, obviously aspect of my life. So I have to mention him, and he's been there so much for me the past 5 years of the whole journey, the rest of the journey that I'm going to share with you. And so I have to mention him. And I actually met him at a wedding that I got hired to shoot in Barbados, and he was the best man. So I was the photographer and he was the best man. And it's kind of crazy because a couple months before that, I was talking to my friend Agnes, and I'm like, I wonder if a photographer has ever met someone from a wedding party and ended up with them. And then it happened to me 2 months later. That was crazy. But I'm so grateful I met him. Man, I like literally my dream man came from like my dreams. He was someone that I literally dreamt of, and he manifested in front of me, and I couldn't believe it. So with my rebrand, Jeff mentioned to me that there was going to be a dip. So as soon as I would come out into the world, basically as I'm Sarah Monica, this is who I am. I love being barefoot. I swear. I'm a cheap wine connoisseur, like just putting my personality out there as opposed to the professional like robot that I used to be. He said that there would be a dip in my business because people were used to the other Sarah, and now it would be like, well, I was following you for you being that person, and now people will need either adjusting to who I am, or they just won't connect with me anymore, so they'll unfollow me. But along the way, I will gain attraction with people that feel super connected with me, and I will attract, more like-minded clients. But he said there would be a little bit of a dip in my business. And I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah, that's fine. But when winter came around, or like the fall and the winter came around, and there was a dip in my business, oh my gosh, I was totally like feeling super... Man, I was feeling super down and depressed, and like, did I make the right choice? Did I just spend $10,000 for no reason? It was like super hard, and I'm getting emotional just thinking about it a little bit. Rory, man, we had just met basically. I mean, I think it was like 4 or 5 months into us meeting, and I also moved in with him at that time. And, he was just so there for me. He was like, Sarah, like, I believe in you so much. Like, you've done all of this up until now. You know that if you just keep pushing along, you could do it. You could figure it out. And that was so incredible of him. But I just felt so exposed with who I was, and like no one liked it. And that I had made the biggest mistake, that even though he was there supporting me and helping me, I just still felt really down. But I'm so grateful that he just like stuck by me, held me, kept, coaching me through it. Because when January came around of 2015, so okay, actually let me pause, because that was the end of 2014. So I want to share with you my income for that year. So that year I made $60,000 in my business. So remember, I had 15 weddings booked in 2014. I was still second shooting, still serving. Okay, serving doesn't count because that was separate income. So yeah, 15 weddings booked and second shooting, plus some shoots here and there. So I made $60,000 in my business, which I felt rich then. I was like, holy shit, oh my God, I'm making so much money in my business. Little did I know how much my expenses were and everything. But again, that's a whole nother story. But yeah, okay, so back on track. 2015, the January wedding show. I did the Toronto wedding show in January 2015. And what I did was I kept, even though I felt really exposed and sad and a little depressed about where I was with the dip in my business, I kept listening to Jeff's, coaching. And what I did was I created a booth at the wedding show where I stood out like crazy. I decorated it all bohemian. I was barefoot in my booth. I had albums from a album company that were very like, kind of like a more earthy style. And so my booth freaking stood out like a sore thumb. And guess what happened? I polarized the shit out of everyone that walked by. And polarizing means people either hate it or love it. The people that didn't really like it or connect with my booth just walked by, no worries. The people that loved my booth, I literally had girls like running up like to me and being like, where have you been? Oh my God, are you real? And they were going crazy over my work. They were like, oh my God, you're barefoot. Oh my God, it's amazing. Like if you guys, I don't know if you've ever been to a wedding show, but a lot of these wedding show booths all look the same, just like white and drab and professional. And most photographers are showing work that's like just like what they think they should show. And I can't even say that. I think I'm saying that because that's what I experienced in my first couple wedding shows. I showed work that I thought I should show. So I'm not putting other photographers down when I say that. I'm just speaking from experience of feeling the pressure of feeling like you need to fit in to be successful in a sense. So that's a little bit of a side note that I needed to make sure I mentioned. But I stood out, and oh my God, with all these people just like coming to me being like, oh my God, I love your work. Oh my God, you're amazing. I love you. Like I felt so accepted finally after these 3 to 4 months of crickets. And oh my gosh, it was just like the most incredible weekend. And I will never ever forget it. And I'm so grateful for all the people that came out to that show and that connected with me because it was so uplifting. And it brought me back to that confident Sarah that I knew that I could do, like for me to do what I want, for me to get what I want, like it's so possible. It's so possible for me. And with my newfound confidence, I booked 7 weddings from that show. So I felt accepted again. I felt super clear in who I finally was and like who I wanted to work with and stuff like that. And overall in 2016, I booked 13 weddings that year. So again, it was 2 weddings less than the year before. So just like Jeff said, I would experience a little bit of a dip, but it was so worth it because since I specialized in such a niche way, which basically was photographer for free-spirited and adventurous couples. That's what my tagline was at the time, because I found out in myself that who I was a free-spirited, adventurous, and sentimental girl. I basically just wanted to attract people that were exactly the same as I was so that we could just feel free to be ourselves together. So man, it was just so much fun being able to connect with people truly with who I was instead of feeling like I had to be professional. So things really, really took off at that point. I mean, I started getting so many more inquiries. I was showing up on Instagram way more confident in who I was. But I also had to do one other thing, which was I had to transition from shooting how I thought that I had to shoot in the industry to more how I wanted to shoot, which was documentary style. So I was kind of wondering, like, how would I do that? How do I get new clients with the new documentary style that I want to shoot, but all my other previous portfolio work is all pretty much kind of, how you shoot for like Pinterest or blogs and stuff like that. I had this moment of realization that why am I shooting the shoes and like the dress hanging and the decor? And it came to me that I felt that I had to make certain blogs in order to, market myself more and in order to book more weddings. I thought that was the only way. So when I would show up at a wedding, I would be stressed out and be like, I need to get this shot, this shot, this shot, this shot. And not only was I shooting for blogs, but I was also thinking that that's what my client wanted. Of course, first and foremost, I cared about delivering an amazing experience for my clients and documenting their day beautifully. But because all I saw on wedding blogs was literally like detailed shoe shots, like more perfect couples photos, which I understand why, because they're trying just to inspire other couples on how to decorate their wedding and stuff like that. I understand why, but I've just like created this pressure for myself of having to shoot that way because I thought that that's what couples expected. I thought that they would be upset if they didn't get a shoe shot or a ring shot in their gallery. And I thought to myself, wait a second, like, why am I thinking this way? Where does this come from? And I realized it was just a self-created story that in order for couples to be happy, I have to shoot the way they see things on the internet. Literally, that's just what it was. But I asked myself, okay, what would I want if I was getting married? What kind of photos would I want? And I would want photos where I was able to just be free, be who I was on my wedding day, running around, dancing, hugging people, like having drinks, like, you know, goofing off, all these things. I would want that, and I would want that to be documented and all the connections between me and my favorite people. And I'm like, okay, I'm not really shooting, I'm shooting those things, but I could do way better. I could, for example, for example, what I did in that time to transition was I had enough of like detail shots and all that stuff because I thought it was just superficial, and I thought that there were couples in this world that didn't care about that but didn't know it yet and didn't know how to explain it. So what I did was I wrote a blog post and I wrote in it, I am the photographer that won't be hanging up your wedding dress and taking photos of it because in that time I could be missing a moment of you and your mom connecting. I won't take your shoes and take really pretty detailed photos of those because you're never going to look back 20 years later and be like, oh my God, those shoes, Mark, those shoes looked amazing. No one's going to do that. And I just literally, I wrote a blog post like that, pouring out my heart, being my rebellious self. And I thought, okay, if I can get new inquiries from now on, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell them all the information they need to know, my pricing, everything. I'm going to tell them that I'm transitioning a little bit from, you know, these types of style photos, so more like kind of pretty and picturesque and posed, to more documentary style, but still like really beautiful to look at. And I would send them that gallery of all like the wedding examples that I had before. Plus I would tell them to read that blog post. And I would be like, if this blog post speaks to you, we're a good fit. And of course that was terrifying. I was like, man, what if they don't like me being so blunt? And man, like that's a really bold statement to say, like, I'm a photographer that's not going to take detailed shots for you. Like I was terrified, but that's how I truly felt. And I really wanted to change the direction of how I shot weddings. And guess what? The inquiries that I got, some people never responded, which is totally fine because to this day I have people that don't respond back, and that just means we're not a good fit. But then I had inquiries where like they were like, oh my gosh, I love what you wrote in your blog post. That's exactly what we're looking for. And I was blown away by the feedback. So to me, that was super exciting that there were couples that wanted that kind of approach, and for me to be able to be free to document wedding days how I wanted. So 2015 was pivotal in me really, you know, rebranding, putting myself out there with who I was, and transitioning how I used to shoot to more documentary style. And that year I made $69,000 in my business, so it was only $9,000 more than the previous year. But that's okay. It was so worth it for me with the changes that I made. I knew there would be a dip, but I felt so free and I just felt on fire, and the feedback was insane. Plus, I was booking a shit ton of weddings for the following year. So yeah, maybe I made $69,000 in my business that year, but the following year, oh my gosh, it's a huge number. Like, keep listening and I'll let you know the number for 2016. It's insane. I remember when I first started my photography business, and I began to notice that I was wasting so much time typing the same responses over and over again in email. It got to the point where I didn't have much time for other tasks that would actually help me grow my business because I was spending hours and hours a day on emails. Does that sound familiar to you? To solve this problem for myself, I started to create canned responses that I could copy into an email and customize it for every single inquiry and client. This has saved me loads of time, and now emails are less daunting as a result. You can also get your hands on these exact email templates I've created, since they are now available for you in my shop. The email templates guide for wedding photographers includes 26 email templates, and not only does it have those in there, but every single template has an explanation of why I respond the way I do. I created this guide to show you that you can respond by being yourself while at the same time strategically being on top of emails in a way that requires less back and forth between you and your client or inquiry. This way, you can serve couples well, but also have boundaries in place to have a healthy work-life balance for yourself. To get your hands on these so you can implement them into your business right away, head over to sarahmonica.com/email guide. And when you get there, just scroll down and you'll find a whole breakdown of all the templates that are included. So head over to sarahmonica.com/email guide right now. So 2016, I had booked 29 weddings. So that's double than the previous year. So man, you could see how really like niching down and putting out who you are. You can charge premium pricing because people feel like you're on this earth literally to serve them and they don't want anyone else. It's amazing. And you get to be more free and have more fun doing what you love. So 2016, this was a year where I started to finally dabble in outsourcing my editing, because before that I was working 12 to 15 hour days with editing, marketing, emails, all the things that we do, wearing all the hats, and also being a server on the side. So I was super, super lucky, and I'm so grateful again for the Keg Brampton. They let me serve only in off season. So during the May to November, I was shooting a lot of weddings, and in off season, I was serving on the side. But little did I know that it was actually my last winter serving. So what I wanted to do is, because I wanted to be full-time so badly, and I know some of you are probably in this situation right now too, like, should I jump? Like, how do I know when to go full-time? When is the right time? You know what I did? I did a little experiment, and this maybe could be something you can try. So I told myself that winter when I was serving at the Keg, all the money that I made from there, I would set aside and not touch. And only if I really, really needed it that winter would I touch it and, would I use it. It turned out that the winter came and went and I didn't need to touch the money. So what does that mean? That meant that really I was ready. It was time to go full time. And in that year, 2016, I made $135,000 in my business. I was so ecstatic about that because that meant that I could literally be free, and my dream came true of me just working for myself and not working for anyone else. So guys, it's so doable. I would highly suggest doing a little experiment like that if you're literally on the cusp of, should I go full time with my wedding photography? I'm already making a lot of money, but I don't know if I need the extra money for my job. Try that experiment. It worked really, really well for me. So now moving on to 2017, I booked 33 weddings. I got a better handle on outsourcing, running my business, marketing. So I kept consistently growing and growing, getting more inquiries, working with people that I still connected with, raising my rates, people paying me higher and higher prices for my services, and me growing my confidence through being like, wow, people are hiring me for this much money and I'm so worth it. And my confidence grew in the value that I offered because I kept improving how I documented emotion and how I approached wedding days. And I can't wait to share more of that with you guys in upcoming episodes because I'm so passionate about my approach to wedding days, the experience I give my couples and their friends and family because everyone's involved. So excited to jump into that. But this year was a huge year for me to just be able to focus on how to provide a better experience. I was no longer stressed about money and making sure that I could make ends meet. It was like, boom, I know that I'm making that money. Now I can focus even more on creating a better experience, and I can focus more on learning how to outsource. So that's where I started kind of outsourcing more. I had more time for myself. I consistently was raising my rates and working less. So that was a big shift in my journey. 2018, so that was last year, I shot 37 weddings. So that's the most I've ever shot. But just so you guys know, I would have never been able to, I wasn't going to take on that many weddings if I hadn't been outsourcing. So I've already been outsourcing my editing. I also hired a VA for the first time in 2018. And at the end of 2018, I also hired someone to cull for the first time because I had like 11 weddings in September, and I'm like, I don't want to go through all that. Plus, my editors at the image salon, I don't know if they could keep up with 11 weddings in that month for me to be on time with all my orders for my clients. So I also had to help out with editing at that time. So I was like, okay, let me take outsourcing a step further, and I'm going to train someone how to cull. And they did a freaking amazing job. And that's something that I teach in my outsourcing for wedding photographers workshop, is how simple it is to train someone to cull. It's actually super, super like mind blowing. All my students were like, where was this 10 years ago? Why wasn't I taught this 10 years ago? But yeah, so last year I've worked the least I've ever worked, I think, in my life, basically, and made the most I've ever made in my life. So if that's not a testament to how amazing outsourcing is, man, and also while keeping the quality intact of all the work that I do, all the edits and everything for my clients, because of course I would never outsource something if the quality wasn't going to be intact. So one thing that I want to mention is, ever since I started my business, I remember looking up to photographers that were making like multiple six figures in their wedding photography business. So my goal was to make $200,000 in revenue in my business. And guess what? 2018 was the year that happened for me. I made $206,000 in my business. I get right now, I'm feeling so emotional and so grateful that all that hard work, all those like trials and tribulations and failures and setbacks and wins, all those came together to get me to where I am. And I know that every little part of those things, everything that happened to me, I had to learn a lesson, or I had to experience it for me to be able to handle where I am now. And yeah, if it's possible for me, it's possible for you too. I always love saying that. So now here we are, 2019. This year I shot 24 weddings. And the reason I shot less was because I wanted to start balancing out having more free time on the weekends. Because in 2018, last year, I only had 4 full weekends to myself from May to November. So I only had like 2 cottage experiences and then 2 chill at home weekends with Rory. And I'm just like, as much as I love shooting weddings, I need to have more quality time with my favorite people in the summer. So I do a thing called what I want. That is what Sarah does. She wants something, she goes and gets it. So I was like, okay, I'm going to keep raising my prices, and I'm going to book less and make the same amount of money. That's my goal for 2019. So what I did was I shot 24 weddings. So that's 13 less than last year. And I made the same. I'm on track, because the year's not over yet. I'm on track to make the same amount of money. Again, if it's possible for me, it's possible for you too. And man, so now here I am in 2019, transitioning into also teaching other photographers how I'm able to work so much less and make more, or make the same amount of money. And I'm really, really excited about this new journey. So for example, just to give you some insight, I used to work 80+ hour weeks for probably 6 to 7 years of my business. And I know what that's like. If you're there, my health went to the wayside. I was the heaviest I've ever been. I used to be an athlete, and I totally lost all that like kind of momentum of me being like feeling powerful and athletic. And that was like a huge part of my identity when I was in high school and a little bit younger. And now here I was like, not playing sports anymore, not running. And I'm like, who am I again? So I know what it's like. Relationships that I've built in high school, I didn't put any effort into them. With my parents, I mean, I could always do a better job with my family. I mean, yeah, this is me being super vulnerable with you, but my grandparents live all the way in Poland, and I really, really missed out in the last like 8-9 years of connecting with them. I hardly ever reached out to them because I was always so busy working and building my business and being obsessed with serving other people and giving them memories instead of making my own. And this is the year where everything turns around for me. I'm realizing I'm 29 now. I'm turning 30 next year, and I'm kind of having like a little bit of a not a midlife crisis, but it's like, wow, where has the decade gone? That's not okay. I'm very grateful and happy of where I got my business. But you know what, Sarah? I think it's time to work smarter, not harder. And I want to inspire other people to do the same because it's so possible. So I was working 80 plus hour weeks. Now I'm working just to do with my wedding photography business, about 30 hours a week. And that includes shooting. Can you imagine that? That includes wearing all the hats in my wedding photography business. That's max, like 30 hours. If you add on the time I'm spending on education now as a separate part of my business, it's maybe an additional 3 to 4 hours a day. And some days, if I have nothing to do with my wedding photography business, then I'm maybe allocating 8 hours to build my education side of things. So I've given myself boundaries. I don't ever want to be a workaholic ever again. My boundaries are I don't work evenings, I don't work weekends, and I'm making the same amount of money. So I'm so passionate about this new journey I'm on. Not new journey, new chapter. It's just an extension. And it's been so much fun going back through all the years with you and reminiscing about everything that I went through. I mean, I am not going to lie. I'm looking at my recording software right now on my computer, and I'm like, holy shit, I've been talking for an hour, and it is a little exhausting. Like my voice is getting raspy, and it's been such a long journey, but I know that this story is going to somehow inspire you or make you feel less alone in some way. And that's why I'm doing it. I'm doing it for you. I'm doing it for anyone that this helps. Even if this helps one person, I'm so happy. And if you're that one person, please let me know. Please let me know. Shoot me a DM on Instagram. I would love to know, because every time someone reaches out to me and told me that something I said helped them think a different way or help them feel more confident or anything, it makes me just feel so much more fire. And I just want to keep teaching and keep inspiring and keep sharing and being vulnerable with you guys. So to finish off, I think I want to finish off this episode with just letting you know my new goal. And I'll always be updating you on my new goals, because I think we can go through our goals together. If I let you know what mine are, there'll be big goals, and then maybe you'll be like, okay, I want to make a big goal too. We can just do it together. So my new goal for 2020 is to book 20 weddings for 2020 on an average of $8,000 each. And so far, I'm on track to do that. So far, I'm booked 10 weddings for next year, and on average, they're around $7,000. So, hey, I just keep pushing it, and I know what I offer is so worth it, so valuable, and it's so important to keep that energy up, because as soon as you hit that vibration of being like, am I worth it? I don't know. Then that's when bookings slow down. But I know how much time and energy I've invested in making sure that I provide the best experience for families and couples on a wedding day, or like couples and their family and friends on their wedding day, and giving them the space and freedom to connect, and then creating such, timeless, emotional photos is just so valuable. And I know that about myself now, and that's why I'm like, yeah, I'm totally worth this, and I'm going to make this goal happen for myself. And then on the side, now that I have so much more time for myself, because everything else is outsourced in not everything else, but so many things are outsourced in my wedding photography business, I'm able now to have another goal of teaching photographers how they can also literally live a balanced life as a wedding photographer. I mean, I work out so much more often. I work out like 3 to 5 times a week. I get to have so many more weekends in the summer. I don't know if I think I was going to mention this. I don't know if I did, but so last year I only had 4 weekends to myself from May to November. This year, with me having 24 weddings booked and making the same amount of money, I had 12 full weekends off. It was life-changing. It was so life-changing. So I got to photograph weddings and do what I love and spend time with the people I love and make the same amount of money. I mean, doesn't get any better than that. And that's what I want to share with you guys. And man, I'm so excited for this podcast. I can't believe that I finally, oh my gosh, I finally recorded this episode. Oh, it just feels so good. And I literally am looking right now in my doorway of a whole bunch of sticky notes with a bunch of topics I want to cover, a bunch of episodes I want to create. So I'm so excited for you guys to keep tuning in. I'm so excited to share with you guys so that you guys can shine and thrive in your life and business too. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful for you, and have an amazing rest of your day. Yay! Hey, thank you so much for hanging out with me and tuning into this episode. If you got value out of it, please feel free to message me on Instagram at Sarah Monica Photo. That's Sarah no H, Monica with a K photo, to let me know. I get so freaking energized hearing from others that what I've said has had a positive impact on their lives. Also, make sure to hit subscribe to the Shine and Thrive podcast to never miss an episode. I'm so grateful for you, and I'm sending you all the productive vibes your way so you have the best week ever.